Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jesters Chambers. Welcome. Come on back. We're a little laid back today. We're not in the court. We're in our nice chambers here as we are doing our Q&A. And joining me today, we have Andrew Frost.
Hey, I played myself. Oh, God. What have I done with my life?
Yeah. We have Sky Swanson.
Questions and answers. I'm a dancer. It's Sky Swanson.
Oh.
Okay.
I was like, I should think of a rhyme, and it's all I could think of.
So, first thing. Yes.
And we have Jonas Tintenseher.
4 in the chambers, 1 not in the chamber, and there is a bullet on the floor. I'm Jonas. I shot a gun once.
Oh my God, that
It was not
great.
a revolver.
What?
Oh, God.
I don't think I
Oh,
introduced
beautiful.
myself, but I'm Casey Reardon. If you don't know that already, it's weird that you're starting with our Q&A. But hey,
Who knows? Maybe someone
maybe
jumped
you'll
straight
learn
to the end.
something. Yeah, so should we just jump right into questions, you guys think?
No, we should
Absolutely.
probably say that Rachel
should-
isn't here because she's doing fancy actor stuff. And
So talented.
It's just the boys
We're all so
today.
proud of
It's
her.
just
Villains.
the boys and Jonas.
Thank you.
The boys see unisex term.
The
The
siblings.
siblings.
Boy with an eye. We're good.
I'll be boy with an eye.
Boy with an eye.
But yes, Rachel is off doing professional things.
We're all
What a
very proud of her and
successful
very
person.
excited. We don't feel left behind at all.
Woo!
I don't hold my hand up against a glass and cry every night.
Questions.
Questions.
Hi, editing Jonas here. Rachel did take some time out of her busy actor schedule to record answers to some of the more character-focused questions that we got, and I am cutting her in. But if the audio sounds weird or doesn't match, or we're not responding to her, it's because she was time traveling and she wasn't actually there, and that's why it'll sound like that. Thank you.
All right, let's start out with one that's kind of for everybody here. So this one comes to us from Jen. Thank you, Jen.
Hi, Jen. Hope you're doing well.
Were there any scenes that you wish you'd played differently? And were there any areas you wish that we had a chance to explore more, either story-wise or location-wise?
I don't know. I feel like maybe a little behind the curtain. There were several times where like one of us did a scene, and then like 10 minutes later, or like 5 minutes later, or right afterwards, we're just kind of like, "Hey guys, I didn't really like where that went." I think there was one moment with Hesk actually,
I think
where like
so.
I was like arguing with you guys, and then afterward, I can't remember what it was. I think like afterwards, I was like, I didn't really like how that went. Can we redo that?
I remember with Renald, there was an end of episode where it was like, oh, I can't go there. My mom is there. And then we all started asking a lot of questions.
Oh my God, yeah, that was so funny.
And it was like,
supposed
this
to
is
be
not
like,
as dramatic.
It was like a cliffhanger line, and then we just kind of kept going, and all of us agreed. We were like, let's go back and just have that be a cliffhanger. So, a little behind the scenes. Most of this we do like purely improvised. We just roll with what we say, but there are moments where we'll go back and change stuff.
I think for me, the only thing I can think of something I wanted to do differently was, because I changed my mind right in the moment, but in Sezonis, when Renald got scared and went on a chase, and then we all caught up, I went into that episode, and I was planning to tell Sky ahead of time. I was like, hey, when we catch up with Renald, Snøfrid's going to be really mad. And I'm going to be aggressive at you, but it's not you. It's a character thing. Just be ready.
Yeah.
But then when we were playing, and I was thinking that, I was like, I think Snøfrid is like, she became so reckless after dying and coming back and all the stuff they went through to get there. She was just like, we're wasting time on this. Like, we need to, that was my thought process. But then we did it, and I was like, no, I think Snøfrid's just like, this is further proof that we are invincible and everything is fine. So I just changed. So that was the only thing that I like felt like I did want the thing that I regretted there was like Snøfrid didn't have any big confrontation that kind of any snap moment. There was the watchful eye stuff that was good.
I think
but
that was your snap moment.
It was,
But
it wasn't.
say that you like threw down the law during that scene.
It was a good scene, but like I feel like Snøfrid the whole time never like, I don't know, she never expressed a lot of anger, and I think she did have some to throw out there.
I mean,
but,
if you want, Jonas, we could re-record your ending and add in a scene of you just screaming at a worker.
Everything else, there was one other moment actually that again was like not something I wanted to change, but like something that did change. Where when we were underwater and in jail in Water jail, I thought that I was thinking about Snøfrid. I was like, this is way beyond what Snøfrid thought. I think I made the wrong character for this campaign. And I was like, I think Snøfrid would go home after this. But then again, it just changed in the moment. And Hesk said something really nice, and there was just a really nice chat that the group had. And I was like,
the underwater scene
when we were in jail.
You were feeling doubt. Yeah, that was such a powerful scene. I loved how that turned out. And that was so great.
That scene convinced. I was like, all right. I was like, okay, Snøfrid will see this out. And then we did so well overall in the factory that I was like, never mind, she's good. This is what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. Andrew,
I guess honestly, when Hesk finally like figures out his shit in the last episode, and he's asking for everyone's forgiveness and stuff. I think I didn't want to like step on anyone else's like story beat moments, so I just kind of let everything else play out. So I think if I were to go back and do it again, Leo would have had a couple words.
Yeah, Leo was the biggest Hesk fan.
Yeah,
but also I think Leo was upset at Hesk at the time, so
yeah.
I could also see him like not speaking right away, and then over time, like him and Hesk building up a relationship again.
Yeah. I do wish that we had gotten like a little bit there. That was definitely something like we just had to like keep going with the story. Things are happening.
Yeah.
One little change actually I wish that I had done in that scene where Hesk was finally out of it and dragging Lucy towards the window. I kind of backed down from it right away, and I really wish that I had argued that out with you guys more. Like held on to that anger for a longer time.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I just kind of backed down right away. I think, Jonas, what you and Rachel said was like so good as a response.
Yeah, and like
it was just like, that's great, that's powerful, and Hesk would be exhausted.
That's what I kind of took it as. Is he's just like done fighting. Like
that's where
his friends
kind
are
of
there,
where it was
like,
supposed to come. Is that he realizes violence isn't the answer to bringing change anymore.
It was violence was the answer, just not
at that
lethal
moment.
Violence.
Well, it's more just like that, violence keeps begetting violence, and you guys wanted to show mercy to Lucy.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of a powerful moment. He had seen how much you guys grew, and he knew that he himself needed to change.
I think in the last episode, there's probably just we could fill 40 minutes talking about just things we wanted to do in the last episode.
Yeah,
it was a long recording.
That episode could have been another hour.
Yeah,
like just
easily
talking, going over things. Like it
was good epilogues. What we did, I do like. There's like we could have talked to Lucy more. We could have like investigated stuff in the Spire more. There's like, but I did also appreciate that we like were able to just zoom out and be like, here's the broad strokes. You can fill in the details.
Yeah, a story doesn't always need the Lord of the Rings extra hour and a half tacked on to the end,
Yeah.
I just, here's something I wish had played differently. I wish that Snøfrid had gotten her Medal of Valor, because everyone else got one, and it feels a little lame that, Snøfrid was the only one. Just because
she has 4 legs.
Snøfrid threw her head
just
back
because she has 4 legs. Apparently 2 is the limit, but hey.
So I had to think about this one a little bit, but there were definitely some things that I wish were different, and it's not because of anything that anyone did or whatever. They more just kind of came from physical things I was experiencing. Either I was sick or tired. A recent example was when we stepped into the ship and we're about to fight Lucy. I didn't say anything. And it was because I was just physically so tired that I didn't really know what to say. And I'm sure Artemis would have maybe stood up and said something too with everyone else. However, I do really like that Artemis talked to Hesk. Like, I liked that when it came to Hesk coming to, Artemis stood up to say something there. So it kind of ended up balancing out. But yeah, there were definitely some things that I wish I had either spoken up more or just generally were more able to interact with more. Also, in terms of things that we actually did talk about in the show, the glitch thing, I felt like that could have been explored a lot more, but I do like that it kind of was just like an ominous event that happened and was part of some backstories and like slowly tied itself into the main story. So, well, not slowly, it was technically always present, but in terms of our awareness, yeah, those were like the big things that I really liked.
All right, I'm going to open the floor to one of you guys. Do you have any questions you want answered about Power in the Dark?
Question for you, Casey. At what point did you know that Lucy was going to be Chaos? Or at least the owner of the Loosened Buckle was going to be Chaos. Because the Loosened Buckle Lucy were like throwaway jokes.
Yes, they were.
I don't even know if you made those jokes.
I didn't start them.
I went back and
Barnabas
did the research because I had this same question.
That's so funny.
It's in episode 9. Christina goes over the counter and says, "It's okay, I know the owner." And yeah, Seth goes, "Oh, you know the Buckle?" And and Casey was like, "Yeah, I know Lucy." And then Sky said, "Oh man, you know Lucy Buckle." And then Casey changed the sign outside the door was originally a gentleman in like a top hat and a mustache. And it was like, yeah, it changes to a woman in a business suit, and that's Lucy Buckle. So.
And then we made a bunch of lady boss jokes or whatever it is.
Yes.
Girl boss.
Which, to answer your question, Sky, I didn't know probably until like episode, I want to say probably like 15 or so.
Okay.
And this is kind of going to lead into somebody else's question here, which is, this is from Caitlin. Mm-hmm. And this one's also directed at me. How much did you have to change from the original ending as things progressed?
Change.
And to kind of answer that question alongside this one, the initial big bad was going to be Christina Santos. And then you guys called it immediately. And I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to do that now. It felt
Christina
too
Santos
obvious.
was the granny with the cookies in the beginning,
yes.
right?
Yep.
Oh, that was a question Becca had actually about what the deal with the cookies was and that grandma. And there it is, Becca. That was the villain, and we called it.
You guys called it a little fast, and I'm like, I mean, it still would have a really fun payoff if it was her.
Oh, without a doubt.
So fun if Granny was the villain. It would change the tone of the campaign completely.
Yeah.
It would be great.
I mean, here's what I'll say. Like, with also Soul Stones kind of got changed a little bit as well. Like, initially they were just like stones that were able to absorb like the radiation of the old world's power source, and then they became, actual spirits of the people from the old world. And I think the reason that they make such great cookies is because you're putting in basically the love and recipes of these dead people.
Wait, so now I'm thinking about it. Did we eat people?
You didn't? Oh yeah, you ate the cookies. You did eat people.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh no!
Hey, those cookies held 2d8 plus 4 HP and cured all poison and disease. I'll eat a person for that.
I didn't realize you meant in game. Yeah, that too.
That answers 2 of my questions, Casey.
Yeah,
on my list.
That's so funny.
This one comes from Ben. Will there be a Power in the Dark cookbook?
There absolutely should be.
I feel like there should
short
be.
Cookbook.
At least a couple. Goblin fries
we
has to
have
be in
the
there.
Loosened Buckle like menu items, and I feel like we could do something with that.
And then just make a whole bunch of more ones, you know? I think we could absolutely make a cookbook at some point.
If we ever do like a Patreon thing, which we've talked about, but we need to have a little bit stronger listenership, I think that could be like a fun tier.
That could be definitely a tier, like a tier goal.
And we just keep updating it with stuff from with all of our food bits from everything.
So much fun.
Andrew, why don't you ask a question?
Sure. So the cores, because we know that first / Dresmond was an actual person, and then it seems like most of the resulting ones were AI. So was it Lucy doing all of that, or what was the whole deal with the cores?
Yeah. So again, this kind of goes into Caitlin's question, and things changing as like I kind of figured out the story based off of kind of what you guys were interested in, everything like that. And so with the cores, they were initially just going to have been AI, and then first being like a person put into a machine kind of came about with the stuff that was going on in Rokul, with them trying to put people's souls basically into like war machines. And I'm like, Lucy was the one who like gave them the idea and the technology to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, well then if she did that, she would know how to do that. And so that's kind of how I was like, okay, first is going to have been the one that was, her experiments with that.
Okay.
And like part of that comes from like, in order for everyone else to kind of stay alive forever, at least be in that stasis, their spirits had to be taken from their bodies. And I kind of knew I wanted to make this group of people into, the new Warforged in the next age of this world or whatever. So like she would need to know how to do that. And then in terms of like the other cores and like what they were doing, their whole thing was just to kind of take in this chaos energy and get it back to the Shining Spire so that it could take off.
Okay. And now, did you have kind of plans for the cores personality-wise, or what their whole shtick was?
With Obel 6, yes. I think going into that one, Obel 6, like, because it was so early in the campaign, I had that pretty far planned ahead at that point.
Yeah.
And so, like, I knew he was going to be a little bit confused by you guys showing up, but also, like, his, first and foremost programming was to sow chaos and confuse people.
Yeah.
So I had his form initially wouldn't have been as much of a deception, because at that point when you met Obel 6, I don't think I knew exactly that Lucy was the bad guy.
Okay.
But I mean, it ended up working out with how the projection looked and everything like that. So.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And then with First, him, I did not really have much of an idea of personality, because like I said, with First, I did not know that he was going to have been a person before he was put into the machine until like much later in the campaign.
Yeah, I got you.
Right on.
What's Second like? They nice?
What's Second's pretty all right. They were the first AI, so they're a little bit more simple, I think.
Like just Microsoft Sam voice.
Yeah. The next couple questions I have here are about Moop, because we got in quite a few questions about Moop. Some of them are from Rachel, because she sent in a few questions for us to go over as well. But so she wants to know, what were Moop's stats? What were their purpose for the Aboleth? And what happened to Gorlox the Aboleth after everything? And then Kieran asked, will Moop ever learn words? And to kind of answer those questions, like, I do feel like with Moop, I anticipated maybe you guys like asking him to run and grab you some stuff, not necessarily to use him in combat, except to affect the environment, like more like a familiar would in a fight or something like that.
I get you.
So they didn't really have a stat block. I wasn't necessarily anticipating them like doing much damage or anything like that in combat, because DMPCs or like NPCs that are a part of the party, for even if they're like something small, always feels off, especially if they get a kill or something. Like it kind of takes away from stuff. So he didn't really have a stat block or anything like that. His purpose to Gorlox, I think Gorlox had told you guys, it was to keep an eye on you and make sure that Lucy kind of got what was coming to her.
Yep.
And so I think we didn't really go over this in the final episode or anything like that, but I feel like Moop probably would have gone back to Gorlox after that fight to give that information, and he would have probably just went off into the oceans and not really come back. He just wanted to know that she kind of got what was coming to her, and he would have left with all of the people who had, agreed to stay with him.
Anyone else got a question they were looking at?
Yeah, I got a question. This is from Becca, and this is directed at you, Jonas.
What?
Becca actually asked questions about each individual character, which is pretty cute, but I feel like this is a good one for you, Jonas. How do you think Snøfrid would be now without the companionship of the group, and what would your place be in the Watchful Eye?
Thank you, Becca. Well, if you're listening to this, you've already listened to the last episode, so we have established what happened with the Watchfly. That's a great question. Thank you. It's so funny with D&D because it always becomes a found family trope, and depending on the campaign, that either makes a lot of sense or it doesn't make that much sense.
Yeah.
And with this campaign, it still made sense because like all of the characters were kind of these deeply sad, broken people who needed friends.
You're talking about Hesk wasn't broken at all.
But there was definitely like a timing element to it that I kept bringing up because I wanted to lampshade it because I thought it was funny that like this whole campaign was like 90 days max. Like it was not a lot of time for us to be like declaring our love for each other, which again is like completely standard for the genre. But I think Snøfrid, especially like being still basically a teenager, is like that was like it was a very formative experience for her. She learned a lot about herself, and she learned a lot about like her own power, not just like as a D&D character who can fight stuff, but like, you know, emotional and authoritative power. And especially like playing her as becoming insanely reckless after dying was like, it was a pivot for me, obviously, to be funny, but also it allowed me to do more bold stuff that she wouldn't have done before. Like, I don't think episode 30 Snøfrid would have done what she did at the Watchful Eye. Like that would have been a much more like subversive kind of get what we need and get out without talking to anybody, probably. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, and we talked about in the episode, like she definitely wants to spend a lot more time with these people and help them with their projects because she loves fixing problems. But I think my second to last intro was like she's with her friends and that's all she needs to be, because that was where she landed at the end of the campaign. Was she didn't know who she was. She needed validation. She felt like a failure at everything. And this time taught her that like, no, like I'm my own person. And that's, I'm rambling way too long. There's a song in my playlist for Snøfrid called I Am Mine. I forget who the band is, but that I put that at the end of the playlist because I was like, this is where I hope Snøfrid lands. And I think she did. And like the first line of it is, I am mine, I am my own, said the ancients long ago. And I think that was what Snøfrid learned, was like, I am mine. I don't need to be anything else. I am autonomous and I'm good. And I am therefore okay to be independent. I don't need to cling to these people forever.
That's good. I like that.
That's lovely.
Yeah. And so for the Watchfly, you know, like we did the epilogue, but she shuts them down, or at least tries to, and tells them, hey, you guys suck. Do something better with your lives.
Let's see here.
Casey, I have a question.
Yeah.
What could the hands do? The Watchful Eye hands that was so exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's a good
we can make this into a mini thing of like all the stuff, the cool stuff that I had that just never got used.
Oh, without a doubt. I want to know everything.
So I have a whole stack of index cards of every monster and stuff that you guys avoided. Had fought. Not avoided, but
okay.
So for the hands, they had quite a few cool abilities. One of them is just like a flat thing called Brutal Strikes, which if you're hit by one of their fisting attacks.
Oh no!
If you're hit by one of their,
if you get
their
fisted
rib
by
crushers.
one of the hands.
Yeah, so they had three attacks. They had a rib crusher attack, a brain buster attack, and bullet rush. With their rib crushers, if you're hit by it, you have disadvantage on attacks and saves until the end of the next turn because they're breaking your ribs and you're kind of like gasping for air.
Yeah.
Their brain buster is like a recharge line attack. So almost kind of like a breath weapon type thing where you needed to make a wisdom save or take psychic damage and become confused. And then the bullet rushes, they just have to charge at you and they will knock you down and like make you prone. And it did a decent amount of damage. But I think the coolest thing was just the brutal strikes aspect of it, that it would like, if you're hit by them, like you feel it for a round basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had stats for Priests of Ruin.
Mm. Oh, cool.
Mm.
They had a lot of interesting like spells and stuff like that, but other than that, there wasn't like much extra to them.
Yeah.
The hags, when they were combined, all had different gaze attacks.
Yeah. Oh my god!
And we only got one of them, which was just the damage one. which is a little bit disappointing because the other one, like when it's not damage, it's always a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I messaged you about it during the session, just in case maybe you forgot. I'm surprised you didn't give them legendary resistances. I know they weren't a final boss, but they were kind of a boss, you know?
Yeah, maybe a mini boss. They probably could have had one. But
that gun had 5 shots.
It wouldn't have mattered that much.
Yeah, that is true. Man, if I had been you, I would have been like, oh, they're immune to that. And just kept going. Just been a dick.
I mean, at the same time, like it was a good use of the stuff I gave you. So like, I gotta
good use.
Give props for that.
Yeah.
But the other gaze attacks were lethargy, which was a charisma saving throw. You get no reactions. Your speed is halved, and you don't get more than one attack, one bonus action, not both. And it lasts for a minute, and you get to repeat the saving throw consistency. So kind of like the slow spell. And then the third one was Despair, which was a charisma saving throw. And for a minute, you have disadvantage on attacks and saves against Irma.
For a minute? Ooh.
Yeah. You get to continuously make it make the save again after each of your turns. So like you can end it early. But,
Oh, nice. Okay.
But yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff in here that you didn't fight. And kind of circling back to Andrew's question of what else was in the tree. Let me get to that point.
What was in that tree?
What nightmares.
So, yeah. So I don't know if you remember that people were like praying to the tree and things like that. Like it wasn't necessarily that they were praying to the tree itself, although that was kind of a part of it. But there was a name that was brought up by the people in Rokul, Nyanzatan, which was a deep crow, which are these massive birds that are partially demonic, and they are some nasty pieces of work because it can just dive bomb attack you, drop you out of the tree. Like it would not have been good. And the fact that the vines got you first was probably for the best, because if you got really hurt on
Easy
that,
for you to say.
Well, if you got really hurt on that, the next thing was like a bunch of Gorions, which are 4-armed gorillas.
Oh no!
And then
why were there demons in this tree?
Shit.
Oh my god!
Why was this tree full of demons?
I mean, that's demons via D&D standard, not necessarily my world standards, but yeah.
Okay.
Got you there.
Valid.
Got you there, Jonas. The egg on your face.
Still.
The egg on your face.
Egg on your face, Jonas. Score 1, Casey. Jonas, nothing.
Oh yeah, pull the sheet
scoreboard down.
Pull the sheet.
Inside joke.
Inside joke. No one will get it.
In terms of things that like were fully missed, there was a whole different mission in Rokul initially that I had planned. That was like, first you need to figure out if the tree is like a tech thing for the Watchful Eye, and then you go into the tree. But because of like timing and where we were at, it didn't make sense to add another like mini dungeon to that entire city. So I was like, we're going to scrap this, especially because you guys were already like, we're trying to get Hesk. Why are we dealing with this?
Yeah.
Here's a question, another one from Ben, actually, that I feel like it kind of fits into that, is like, what aspect or traits of your character do you identify with the most?
Yeah, I really like Ben's questions. Good questions, Ben. Someone else talk. I just talked a lot.
Whenever I make characters, one thing that I do, and I think a lot of people do this, is you find like one aspect of yourself, and then you just kind of build the character from there. And it helps a lot with role play, and it's how you can get kind of a better performance out of yourself because you're basing off of something that is already very familiar to you. And I would say with that in mind, with Renald, it's honestly probably the cooking. I love to cook. It's super fun to cook. And he was just kind of like a silly little guy, He was just all over the place a little bit. He probably has ADHD like I do. But what stemmed from there is like I wanted to make a chef character. And I wanted to make a character that was a little less forward than Hesk was. For Hesk, I'm not even too sure what aspect of me might be Hesk while I was building Hesk. Maybe a side of me that likes to give advice. Maybe a side of me that like wants to believe in a singular thing with a lot of purpose, when
I was gonna say
get passionate about something, like that dedication and passion kind of side of me as well. But yeah, I'd say those were probably the things that I personally related to most in those characters.
I think with Leo,
was it the accent?
Oh yeah, no, obviously
it was the accent.
Funnily enough, the accent is a new thing.
Really?
I don't know if the accent has come from me playing Leo or not, but I mean, it would come out on occasion when, times of high emotion, but it's way more apparent now. And I'm like, oh no, what have I become? But I think Leo is his sense of, probably a sense of loyalty, of just like having his buddies and having kind of that Papa Bear attitude towards them. He's ride or die. And that goes for many things.
I think with Snøfrid, the main thing was my 4 legs.
Yeah, I get that. Very brave of you to share that.
I've made a lot of RPG characters. My favorite thing to do is play RPGs. I think Snøfrid is probably the closest that a character has ever been to just me. Like obviously there's a lot of differences, but in terms of the like anxiety and imposter syndrome and like always worried that she's upsetting her friends somehow and feeling like a smart, creative problem solver who just keeps failing at shit. That wasn't intentional. That was just because I rolled really bad, but it did work for me.
It did.
A lot of those things, like I don't have imposter syndrome, for example. I got over it because a lot of very nice people repeatedly have told me that my work is good and that I do good stuff, and I believe them now.
You're goddamn right.
So it's like a younger me is Snøfrid, and then also a centaur. Yeah. Casey, were there any characters that you kind of put yourself into in this campaign? You can say no if it's not so much.
Horus,
but, wanted to get enough savvy.
Yeah, when it comes to me running games and stuff, like when I'm making NPCs and things like that, it's a little bit harder for me to like. I usually don't fully flesh them out. They kind of get mostly fleshed out in like the conversations that the party has with them. Yeah. So I know a lot of people prep D&D and RPGs in different ways. And like that's probably one of my weakest things is like because there are so many characters, I can't like dedicate as much time to each individual one. But I do think like I think there's like at least a little bit of Lucy or me in Lucy in like the going through like as much hell as possible to like complete an objective. Like I'm the kind of person who will like I put myself more in harm's way than anybody else to finish something that I started. Like I don't like leaving things unfinished, and I think that's definitely a part of her personality.
I get you.
Yeah, who was your biggest self-insert, Casey?
Well, it was the ferryman, right? The guy who gave us the gun.
Yeah, exactly.
The shopkeeper.
The shopkeep. Yeah, I just wanted you guys to have a gun.
Lumiere, yeah.
I made so many jokes about, just pulling out my gun and shooting people. The case was like, well, I'll give him this one. We gave him the bag of
we gave him the bag. I'll give him this two.
He hasn't used the bag in a while. We'll give him another one.
But yeah, I don't usually have much of a self-insert, I don't think. Like I said, I don't fully flesh out the characters that much. I think like a lot of like my weirder personality usually comes through with shopkeepers and things like that. Just because I like having those like salesman kind of interactions. But
it's always fun.
So for Artemis, again, when I was developing her, I didn't really have a big idea about what I wanted to do with her. And actually, we made a joke earlier in the show where I think we were doing like roasts for our intros. So my roast was that my character is basically just me. And I mean, she's definitely a more like toned down version of me, but she very much was like me. I'm very into astrology and, the stars and all that stuff. So all of that came from me. So that was kind of like the big thing that we aligned with, especially in terms of like our excitement and personality. I was like very concerned about her public image because I knew this was going to be on a podcast and I knew it was going to go to more than just like, a Twitch stream where I've streamed D&D before and still do and things like that. So I was very overwhelmed about who she could possibly be. So I didn't really have, I ended up not coming up with a lot of goals for that. But I'm really proud of what she became. I was going through a lot of like mental health stuff also when we began the podcast. So developing her character was harder for me because I was dealing with other stuff IRL, but coming through and like actually making her character I had a couple things, I guess. She didn't drink alcohol because she was from the desert and hydration was important to her. And I kind of, if you go back and listen to some of those earlier episodes, like for example, she only got water at the Loosened Buckle. She didn't drink with everyone. And also, I don't know. I had come from a campaign where I was kind of the front runner, so I wanted to take a back seat and kind of see what it felt like to play a more back set character. And I think I overdid that in the beginning, but I think that that allowed me to actually develop Artemis as a character over the game. So kind of as you learn about her, I'm also learning about her, which I thought was really fun to play as a D&D character, because that's not normally how it goes. You know, you always have like a backstory or whatever, and you kind of know what you're doing going into it. But yeah, it was a self-discovery for me as well as for you guys listening.
Let's open up to one of you guys again.
I got a question. What was up with the spirits in the wasteland? Why were they there?
That was one of my questions.
Yeah. So, like I said, with the spirit zones in general throughout the world, I kind of like just gave this in the epilogue, but they were the spirits of people from the old world. And I think this might not have come across super well in what Lucy's monologue basically was. The first time that they tried to launch the Shining Spire, it literally broke everything apart. So it was basically a Pangea of land initially, and then everything kind of split off after that first attempted launch. But I think because there like isn't as much like rock formations in the Ashland Wastes, I think like those spirits kind of glommed onto each other, making a pool rather than like an individual spirit attaching itself to a soul to stay.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool.
Cool.
That's neat.
Let's do another one from Rachel, because I feel like we should get most of her questions in. This one is, what were everyone's character's background and secrets? Specifically, what were Hesk's secrets?
What?
Well, there is the lightning scar.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we did touch on a lot of Hesk's stuff.
We touched on a lot of Hesk's stuff. And, you know, the village didn't exactly go the way Casey and I wanted to, because the leader ended up being more of a dick. Going
back to things that could have been done differently.
Yeah, maybe that leader guy. But honestly, I mean, they're a super zealous religious-y place. Like, it was never going to be a welcome to our land. It was always just going to be like, who the hell are you guys? Like, I wrote out a whole bunch for Hesk's backstory, but what that was there was a that lightning scar they had, this black lightning scar that basically ran up his entire body, was this plant that was found there, and a ritual that every single one of those clan members go through is that when they turn 16, they need to go, basically they get that plant pressed against them, and it causes unimaginable pain to them. And this is sort of a trial of like, to understand the pains that the world will bring you, to like prepare you for the hardships of life.
The Ganja Bar,
those who I think I don't know if I had this part written out, but basically in my head it was those who remain standing, and those, or not even those who remain conscious, and on top of that, those who remain standing during the whole process, which is almost, it's very, very few people ever have that happen to them. They get turned into Farwalkers. They get turned into Farwalkers, who are agents sent out by the village, or the tribe basically, to enact change across the world. So there we could have run into another one of these agents, but there's very few of them, and they are basically blessed by change, making them paladins, essentially, and they just, good or bad, they're there to enact change. And as a reminder, his tribe was located in the Ashland Wastes, which is a forbidden area that only criminals are sent to, but his clan was always there, basically. And they have a secret way of getting out there, which turned into the tunnels and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, why did Hesk say he was from Spear originally?
He didn't want people to know he was from the Ashland Wastes. It's a secret that his people keep. Because there's a connotation of like, you escaped, you came from the Ashland Wastes, you are a criminal or a liar. You know?
Right.
So it's easier to say, I'm from Spear.
That makes sense.
And that was supposed to be like a big reveal to you guys, like, he's been lying to you. He's actually from this incredibly dangerous place.
And then he got yoinked by a giant dragon.
Yep.
Leo didn't really have any secrets. I think I really described everything major in his backstory. Like his debt issues. I mentioned in a couple of cold opening stuff about his mom, and then the dad stuff, figured out in game. Yeah, no, everything was basically laid out. I mean, just Leo as a person and character, he's very much cards down on the table. So, I mean, if we want to loop it back around to the scenes you wish played out differently thing, I think Leo and Artemis definitely had some scenes that could have happened that would have been very insightful into how he thought of things and viewed his history. Because his mother was a guide who got lost in the desert.
Oh,
I think
very cool.
He saw a bit of that in Artemis, and he didn't disrespect it. Like, he didn't not respect it per se, but he always had kind of this, not even a look down on thing on Artemis, but he just got weird vibes, I think.
Because she was another guide kind of thing?
Yeah. Maybe it was just too familiar to him that he didn't want to get too close.
Yeah, it's kind of like seeing a ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
It's like he had no ill will towards her, but I think there was always a little bit of apprehension. It was just like, oh no, well, like, how do I approach this?
Right.
And I do wish we had like a couple of moments in the campaign, but what you gonna do?
There's only so much time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Snøfrid was also very low on secrets. She kind of laid everything out very early on, and the way I like to do a character background is to just kind of come up with a bunch of stuff that can act as a hook for the DM, and whatever gets used is good, whatever doesn't.
Yeah.
So there was stuff that like we never got to. That's fine because it just didn't come up. Like Snøfrid, like one thing I was very curious about was, where are other centaurs from? We never met one.
That's a great question.
never got her one. That was just something that like not an important question, and honestly, Snøfrid doesn't even really care. But I noted that like she's a centaur in this weird little village in the middle of nowhere. She's adopted by a dwarf and a gnome. Doesn't know where her parents are. She had like a mentor that was like a mysterious elf who told her the thing about the Shining Spire being the spine of a dead god, which was not something from Casey. It was just like, this is a rumor I heard. Is that okay? And he was like, yeah, sure. You can hear whatever rumors you want.
That's like cool. That's like folk storytelling, like crazy rumors and stories.
Yeah,
like
I'm
a writer.
Legends
I do this kind of
made
thing.
over time.
I do think, specifically with that point as well, like, it's not entirely wrong because the dead god that it was supposedly was memory, and it is. The Shining Spire was the crowning achievement of the old world.
Yeah, no, I liked that. I mean, I liked what kind of, it became like a cool metaphor that I liked way more than if it had actually been true. Like, and also I didn't want it to be true when I wrote it. I was like, I don't want this to be a secret that I just randomly learn in my background. Yeah. But it's like a cool rumor, and I really liked how we learned pretty early on that memory was not like that was just a rumor. The Spire was something else.
Yeah.
But then memory for Snøfrid and for like Arvoidus and sort of a couple, I think Leo and Barnabas got in on as well.
I think so.
Just became like a shibboleth of like our thing. Like the stuff that we know and the quest that we're on is learning about the old world, protecting memory. And yeah, with the Watchful Eye, like I said, like, yeah, she got conscripted because she stumbled into some tech. And she is working with them because she doesn't really have a choice, but also it gives her a chance to look at some tech stuff, and that all played out. And weren't really any big secrets there. just stuff that we didn't get to as expected. We got to the important stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I was also like, I wasn't sure if we would ever get back to the Watchful Eye. Of course, Casey, as a DM, you like work your player stuff in the main campaigns, the main quest somehow. But I was kind of, by the time we were hitting like episode 60, 70, I was like, I don't think we're going back to Spear, and I'm okay with that. I don't know what Snøfrid would do if she went back there, and then we had to, and I had to figure it out. I was like, okay, well, the thing she would do is tell them that they suck and they don't know anything.
Yep.
And my God, did you?
Also, really cool reveal for me as well. Like when we learned about the world and all this, Casey was describing the Watchful Eye as like this very strict, controlling faction. Basically, had control of the continent. I was like, oh, that's cool. This character I want to play wants to be like a tech person, is like living under their watchful eye, haha. But like living under the rule and like dealing with that. And then we discover later that like they're so insular that they don't have more than that. Like that's the extent of their reach. Was like a cool, returning past the hero's journey type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You've outgrown them.
I love that. I forget exactly what my line was, but it was just like, I said something at some point. I was like, the thing that Snøfrid has learned is that the Watchful Eye does not know a lot of what's going on. And if she knows and is also kind of a failure, then they must be even worse failures. So this cannot go wrong for us because they don't have the knowledge that I have. So
yeah,
I did have a secret from my D&D background. Was it wasn't a secret, but like a discovery, because I played a hermit, because I always play a hermit because I like it when the DM tells me things. And the secret that I learned about the world was that machines were powering up randomly, and I have that on my question list. Is why? Was that just kind of leaking chaos energy?
Yeah, it was leaking chaos energy that was able to power things on that should have been off. I think part of that too stems from things changing throughout the campaign.
Sure.
And not necessarily thinking initially that there was going to be that much powered tech, and then it was
I thought that
way
too.
more. It was in a lot more places than I think it was when I world built
when
initially.
You pitched the world,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely encountered that. I was like, I thought I was going to be the cool tech character and have this secret knowledge. And then we immediately, it's like, oh, everyone's getting in on this. All right, well, at least I can talk to someone about it.
Yeah.
Artemis' background wasn't crazy extensive because, like I said, I didn't really have a lot to develop with her. I knew she came from Moonsand, which is in Eterland, where it had this crazy, very starry sand, which we all just discovered together was because it was a rather frequent impact site for meteors, and the sand would become glass and become iridescent, which I thought was a really cool explanation in the end. With that, she had a small family. They had a history of coming from Reardon, which is where the glitch happened, which was that big technological event, which made people, at least in that town, have a very strong distrust for technology, as we saw with the Watchful Eye being developed from that. But they moved out and created their little nomadic city of Moonsand out in the deserts. She had a brother, she had a mother and father, and she knew her grandparents, although they were not all alive at the time of the story. And something interesting that I think it was not brought up at all, but they're tieflings. And Casey and I talked about this when we were developing my character, but it never got touched on, but it was just kind of a cool thing to think about. There is a forest in Eterland called Ruin's Playground. And we kind of developed together that tieflings were essentially created as almost like a prank on Ruin, because creation touched Ruin's playground and created tieflings. So that's why they have their devilish or demonic nature, because of their connection to Ruin. So I don't know if I really use that in my character at all. I did have it in mind whenever we came into contact with Ruin as a god, but I knew when we were talking about it, we weren't going to explore it. But I just thought that was such a cool and exciting thing that I really wanted to explore more. I don't think I really expressed it, and you wouldn't have ever known it if I didn't tell you now.
Again, Ben, great questions. How do you feel this campaign would have played out differently if there were no microphones and no audience? Obviously, we had fun, but was there ever a time where something happened for the show? And you guys can, answer for if there's anything specific you're thinking of. But for me, as the main editor, I think I can safely say that, like I don't know what changed anyone's plans or prep based on what would or wouldn't be okay for the podcast. The main thing that I think affected us is just we're a little bit more focused than you would be at a normal D&D table.
Yeah.
We were just early on, we kind of had a group realization of we don't have to, if there's something goes wrong or if there's something we need to correct, we're in an edited recording and we can do that. So I don't know, Casey, or if there were any character moments you guys had that you specifically changed because you didn't want it to do it on a show. But as far as I know, there wasn't any big changes that we did that we wouldn't have done in a home game. It was more just about being more intentional with the way that we did things and being able to change stuff on the fly and kind of react more to stuff happening around
really
the errors and mistakes.
Yeah.
All the little scrubs that we did do was really just to make it cleaner in the final product. Just getting rid of the rambling and oh wait, should we do this instead? Hold on.
Retaking lines, that kind of thing.
That way you're just not listening to us, mumbling to each other for 2 minutes, just wait a second, hold on, what are they doing? Well, for what?
That conversation could have been an email.
There's a lot. You guys listen. Our combats come out pretty tight. There's a lot of waffling that you don't hear that I cut.
I can't do math.
A lot of me jumping in with a rules correction that I just always cut because
they'll never know.
Sometimes I have to leave it in because the conversation doesn't make sense.
Oh my God. Guys, it's every episode.
At least one. Yeah, honestly, Jonas is a wizard. Every
episode, Jonas comes in with some sort of rules correction, and they're gonna cut this too. And I'm I gotta get the word out there. I gotta get the word out there.
Listen, when I jump in, I always make very clear to say, this is what it's supposed to be, but the DM obviously can do what the DM wants.
It's not every episode.
It's it might be every episode.
No.
A little bit. We'll give them credit.
For me, there are definitely things that I changed narratively because it's a podcast, and because I think it made more sense to be all right, let's focus on this thing, move the plot forward, as opposed to oftentimes when I run games, it's all right, I have this place really fleshed out and there's a lot of stuff to do there, but there's not really much direction that I'm giving you.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of was all right, let's keep the direction going and let's keep the plot going. Because it's, for people listening, it's not going to be as interesting if it's not a more flowing story. And I also don't know if we weren't recording, if this wasn't for other people's entertainment, I don't know if Hesk would have lived or just been dead. I do think I'm much happier with the outcome, but at the same time, when Hesk got put down, I was do you want Hesk to die here, or do you want the possibility of him to come back? It was a long conversation about it.
It was a long. We talked for almost a full episode worth of just us talking. Well, here's the pros of this. Here are the cons of that. Well, what if we go this route? And we came up with 4 different possible scenarios for where that story could go. If he dies, if he lives and doesn't join, if he lives and does join, and then it was and if he lives but then sacrifices down the line or something like that, and it was just a whole thing. I think it was and if he lives and if he does double agents or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a whole thing. So you're right. I don't know if that would have happened.
I'm really happy with how that came out, but I don't think it would have been. It would not have come out the same. I don't think.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think Leo's character would be completely different because at least the way I play MMO,
he'd just be a horrible racist.
Oh, really, the worst. The worst. Total.
He'd be much more like his dad.
R-Anon.
Anti-elf. Just R-Anon.
R-Anon.
But is being anti-elf really racist?
Yeah, because that damn knife ears. No. In all actuality, no. the way I play RPGs is my gears take a little bit of time to turn. And I think with the limit of an hour-long episode, I had a little more trouble like getting into that Leo mindset than I would if it was just like a regular like 3 to 4 hour.
Sure.
That's why I feel like some of the best episodes we've had were the ones that we would like go on like one stretch, like a double. Because I feel like we got into that headspace a little like deeper, and I feel like some of our best roleplay moments were in those doubles. Because the way I originally built Leo was, smooth talking, wisecracking, like street guy. And like we got a little bit of that, but I feel like he kind of flanderized it a little bit and got a little more like, comic reliefy, which is fine. I don't mind it. I had fun playing him. That's all that matters.
I liked when we talked to Glenn and he got to be a little more streetwise again.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to do with Leo. Because he has a plus 12 persuasion, and he had a plus 12 persuasion like the entire time.
What?
Swashbuckler.
Yeah.
Swashbuckler.
I feel like we never used that. I feel like I rolled more persuasion checks than you ever did.
I think part of the problem was Leo was not the front man.
Yeah.
Like he didn't take up that role most of the time, I don't think.
Which I think...
Yeah, for some reason that was Snøfrid. With the negative charisma.
Snøfrid a lot. No, but that was so funny. It made no sense.
It was really
so funny.
It was pretty funny.
I think some of it stemmed from Leo's impulsiveness and following Hesk sometimes in like the like, let's just fight it out. Like going back to the first episode when you pulled a stool out of your bag, It's like, why talk to the crowd? Let's throw a chair.
We didn't get a lot of chair content towards the back half of the campaign. I'm a little sad about that.
I had every intention of it at like a key moment, and then that moment just I never felt that yearning to pull it out.
It's all good.
I was looking for it.
Oh, this is a good question. Was there ever a time where something happened for the show? Okay. Well, for one, I think Artemis would be an entirely different character. I don't usually go into campaigns feeling like I did about Artemis. But again, there was that pressure that it was going to be seen by people. So I definitely, she would be totally different, I think. I mean, same build, but personality-wise, I think she would be a little bit more, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Maybe interesting because she'd be more developed, actually. But was there ever a time where something happened for the show? In terms of, for me, I think, yeah, definitely. I can't remember specific moments, but I know that often when I'm doing these for show games, when it's for stream or for the podcast, like I'll make character choices that I wouldn't always agree with necessarily, but because it either like makes the story interesting or resolves something that isn't resolved yet. Because I think it's more exciting to also not always go exactly with what me, Rachel, the player, would do in the situation, because it makes the story more interesting.
I have a question for you all, actually. Bringing up the chair, we said initially everybody was going to get this minor mundane magic item thing, and it never happened. But what would you have? I had said that. Yeah, I remember saying that.
I would have taken something.
Well, it was more of a we'll figure out what the story provides kind of thing, not necessarily like you get to pick one. So what would you want that to be for your character?
+1 sword.
That's not mundane or minor.
Well,
plus 0.5 sword. It gets rounded down though, so
plus 0.5 sword rounded down.
If it's on the level of bag of furniture,
yes,
I think. God, that's hard because it's like so useful, but only in very specific niche, right?
Yep.
Some kind of like scanner tool would have been good. Like if Snøfrid had a tricorder and could be like, this is what this machine does. This is what this machine does. Just like doesn't help you deal with it, but just like can give you a clue.
Yeah.
Maybe something that could cast like a cleric cantrip, like maybe a few times a day, something to cast like thaumaturgy or guidance or something like that. Limited usage though, not unlimited like a normal cantrip, but it would be cool to be a paladin with a cantrip able to use. Now I understand. But once a day, once a long rest, I don't know, to keep it that super mundane kind of feel to it,
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, probably thaumaturgy, because there's not, like, guidance, that's incredibly useful. Thaumaturgy, not as many useful things with it. It's more of a
It's more like
kind of thing.
you can use it for social stuff. You can use it for out of combat stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We have a couple people who've asked basically the same question.
Ooh, I think I know what the
Frankie,
question is.
Caitlin, and Becca, and that's it. Frankly, Caitlin and Becca all asked a variant of what was your favorite moment. Just
that
I know
is,
it's hard. It was a long campaign.
Hard
but
question.
I think we should keep out the epilogue because I do feel like that is
sure.
Honestly, going to be my favorite moment no matter what. Was just
I started crying
epilogue,
during my
exactly.
epilogue.
That's why I feel like we have to keep that off the table.
It was good. But I got one. Favorite is a hard word. I think like
sure, of course.
Favorite in a broader sense, like what were some of your favorite? What was something that you really enjoyed? On a purely personal and like mechanics kind of. Again, those nat 20s to bump Hesk back up to 1. What was it? 3 times?
That was
in basically one encounter.
That is what made you a champion of change.
Because the pixies knocked him down, and then one turn he killed 5 of them.
Yep.
And basically was just like, like
full rip and tear mode.
That was unbelievably badass, and it felt so good. And then in the end, like being like getting everyone out facing the dragon alone, and even though he lost, like still like to face down a dragon with such conviction, it was cool. It was so badass. So that was definitely great. And then on some roleplay levels, just like all the little moments I got to have with everybody's characters individually. Jonas, our scene in the prison and our scene outside the town on that like first night always hold a special place in my heart. I had a few great scenes with Barnabas as well, and Leo and Art, and just like everybody. Like I just got to have these cool little one-on-ones with everybody. That was always nice. Oh, one more for Renald though. Bahagrit, Spirit of the Machine.
Oh,
yeah.
One of my favorite episodes to record.
That was
Casey
so
let me
good.
be so unhinged that episode. It was so much fun. You let me get away with so much. And it was so funny. Oh,
I'm pretty sure that was one of the episodes that you came in and you prefaced it with like, guys, I'm feeling a little off today, so my energy might be like a little down.
I literally
like, hey,
was
don't worry about
so
it, buddy.
tired. I was so tired during that recording.
It was so
and
good.
I just got really. I think one of my favorite parts was Jonas cackling, laughing, just going, "You're adding lore." I added like so much lore to Bahagrit. Oh my God.
I do want to say one of my favorite parts is probably the aftermath of Bahagrit, where you had to explain that you were his dad, but not his dad, and just watching you squirm with that. That was probably one of my favorite moments.
That was
so
good.
great. I feel particularly proud of that like weird improv that I had to do on the
that was
spot,
funny.
because it was all off the dome. There was not any like, hey, wait, let me think this through real fast. It was just like, no, this is it.
My mouth is making words, and there they go.
Yeah.
Snøfrid with Latos at the Watchfly is obviously peak of her as a character.
Yes, so badass. It was a cool
without
encounter.
Fighting.
That was really fun.
That was a really cool encounter on top. Like that was just one of my favorite episodes in general.
I just really enjoyed having to deal with the problems, being able to solve the fire in a creative way. Everyone got to do something different, except for Rachel, who like stuck her head in a wall. But that was funny.
God, that was so funny. I feel for them because we were all just kind of roasting them a little bit, like, you doing what?
I think but then one thing that stuck with me for a lot of the campaign that I never got to do a callback to that I really wanted to was when we were in the underwater door, we were going into the room where I think we met the mermaid, the merfolk, or the Triton person.
Yeah.
And we were talking about tactics and like not sure what was going on. And Hesk said, and I wrote this down on my sheet because I wanted to bring it back. Hesk said, "We open the door. We are in control." And
That's a good line.
That's cool. I don't remember saying it.
that was another beat for me for Snøfrid to play of like, that's a core kind of I hate when people overuse core memory, but like that's a key turning point for her is like, oh yeah, I don't have to be out of control. Like I can take control of the situation. That was a really good time.
I think some of it for me was, it was definitely like towards the end of the game, I started doing a little bit more of those clever encounters where it's not just a slugfest, you know, there's something else going on. The first one, I think, was that fire encounter. But then after that, the thing with Themis, where you had to convince her, and then in the final battle with Hesk, the drones that you just they were super easy to kill, but you needed to at least kind of focus on them. Like just adding that extra element to make fights more interesting. And honestly, I do think Leo's drone slaughter was really funny to me in that final encounter.
I was so proud.
Oh, the other one I remembered was when we were in the like episode 12-13 when we came out of Obel 6's cave, and that was, I think, that was our big first like team building moment, and just the sort of visual of us all like a little beaten up coming out of the cave into the sunlight. We've just made huge discoveries about the world in the past, and we're all reeling. Like that was just kind of a cool like end of Act 1 type thing for me.
The rebel kobolds coming. And
they came and ruined our party. But we had a good emotional moment with it. So.
Hey, the obelisk protects, baby. That's all that matters.
Andrew, a favorite moment?
Honestly, that being said, the obelisk protects was pretty cool. I enjoyed that one.
It was a cool moment.
I think, I don't know, this is tricky. All of it's a small worldness of Magic's Forest was really funny.
Oh, Magic's Forest. A lot of cool stuff happened. A lot of funny stuff happened.
the first fight with, I think it was like an ogre or a troll.
It was a Cyclops.
Cyclops, and he was just going on the script, and we're like,
so
do you want to do this? Like,
why?
Something seems off here. That was just so funny. I think Rokul, just the emotional whiplash of the whole Rokul arc was insane. Just between like the one IWPIT and
really liked everyone's roleplay in those.
Snøfrid fucking dying.
Oh yeah, I loved Renald's little speech to you, Leo, when we were in what was her name again? Estelle de Green's cabin.
Yeah.
I did a little speech to you about their sacrifice was theirs. Don't put yours on them. You know, like like all that sort. I love that little speech to you. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was good.
Another thing, Renald never having a left shoe. Casey, you asshole.
Oh, when he got the spirit shoe, that was so good.
That was very cute.
Really
that was very cute.
That whole everything in Rokul, not to make it like about me, but I did really love everyone else's role play.
Talk about our
Snøfrid dying.
Yeah.
Like, when Rachel was like, I think Artemis doesn't leave. I think she just sits there with the body and cries. I was like, what an incredible choice. Like
it's like a weird, like dark fantasy we all have every once in a while, IRL, just like, what would people say at my funeral? You know? like how are people gonna miss me when I'm gone, you know? And like you got to experience
like,
that
Leo,
through your character.
Leo
got really panicky. Barnabas was like kind of shut down.
I had the same
Renald
situation.
had to like take charge for a minute, be like, guys, we need to get out of this situation, and like he kind of had to guide the team.
That was so weird. It felt in and out of character all at the same time because Renald would just like the way I had him built. He would just logically he would have abandoned all of you guys the moment that happened. He would have just been like, nope, this is too much for me. I'm gone. But I just kind of had to be like, no, he feels there's something else going on here, and he needs to help these people.
I like that he stepped up, not in like a heroic way, but just like, well, everyone else around me is being useless, so I have to I have to grip onto something.
I like the note that you there. It's not heroic because I think it wasn't so much that. It was more just like, these people are my best option right now to get out of this city.
I really like
you
that,
all need to get it together for me right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that.
I just thought of another moment as well. But you know what? We've gone too long on this question anyway.
There's so many good moments.
It was just a really fun campaign with a lot of great little moments in it.
I think of two things off the top of my mind. The first one is the end of the first quote unquote season and the beginning of the second. There was a moment where it was after we left the underwater thing, and everyone was on the beach, and everyone was like all like, you know, oh, Hesk, are you okay, whatever. And everyone like didn't really talk to Artemis about it. And after where Artemis goes to Hesk and, talks about how she wants to be more included with the group, but doesn't really know how. I just felt that conversation was so genuine, and it, there's some places where art imitates life, and I felt like I kind of pulled from moments of my actual life, like feeling those emotions in that moment. So it was almost like this cathartic little moment of feeling like it just felt real, like just, like we're friends and we're all together. And then I loved how I was using that moment to drive Artemis into being more of a front runner of the party, or at least taking more of a stand in more events. The other one was actually when Snøfrid and Artemis were sitting together, and Snøfrid the second one was when just Snøfrid's death, which isn't a good means of being my favorite part, but it was a very intense part. The emotions were real. I actually cried during that part. And then I loved that Artemis gave up her star map for Snøfrid's revival, and that in return Snøfrid made Artemis a new star map that was like techie and cool, and a little star projector. I just thought that was so cool, and it feels like a redeeming moment from the first moment that I talked about too, which is really cool.
I mean, I have a small segment here that I kind of want to do of just stuff that got planned and just never came up or was missed in some semblance of a way. Which the whole reason that this kind of came up for me was because we were just talking about the underwater dungeon thing. And there was basically an entire floor there that we didn't see. And one of the things that partially came back, I was able to get some of it in, but not all of it, was there was a room that, in that building, again, an old world building that had an altar to each one of the gods. So you guys ended up seeing the preservation and ruin ones, but there was also one for creation, magic, and change.
What things were there?
Yeah, the creation altar had some gold on it with a bit of machinery. It could fit some vials in it, and when powered on, it would, quote, do something. Mm-hmm. What it does is it takes a tech check would have told you that when you take 3 normal potions of healing, it will scale them up power-wise, and it can do it 3 vials in a day.
Oh, it's like a converter?
It can increase the potency of potions of healing. Magic's altar had
hot.
A lit candle, which was underwater. There was a magic symbol, which also would have given you a connection of magic's symbol to Chaos's. Because it showed that it was 8 interconnecting circles, and then floating above the rune was an immovable rod. So you would have had that a little bit sooner than when you actually got it.
Oh, my beloved!
Oh my god!
A little bit sooner, 40 episodes. Actually, it was only 25.
Yeah, Change's altar had 3 flowers resting upon it that shift in color as you stand around and inspect them. They also sprout and die over the course of a few minutes. And they also had a small rust-colored bag, which was a bag of tricks.
Oh, that's fun.
Cute. I love it.
There's also a sick bay where you could have contracted some disease, but, other fun stuff.
That leads a little bit in my next question, Casey, is so that the gods and magic were in the old world. And
yes.
Lucy called us Creations 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So when she blew everything up, did they literally just immediately plop down new people everywhere and were like, all right, you can think that you have had civilization for a long time? Or was there a kind of an apocalyptic downtime period?
There was definitely a downtime period, and that's kind of where the fetid and ashland waste came from. The fetid waste is just not really inhabitable, and the ashland waste was scorched, and they probably tried to fix both of them without much success before actually plopping people down. And I think it was about 1,000 years after that this cataclysm happened, and I think they probably didn't have the memory of it. happening. I don't think creation and the other gods gave them that memory.
Sure.
Anything else?
Some of them don't necessarily make sense to answer.
Yeah, some of them are like repeats of things you've answered.
Yeah, Kieran's question gets answered.
Yeah, two of his questions get answered.
Yeah. Funny. All right, guys. Well, why don't we, since we've been going so much into things right now, why don't we try and do some of these a little rapid fire? Becca send in questions for each individual one of us. Jonas already did theirs, so why don't we jump into these? Casey, what inspired you to do a tech-themed campaign? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
It
is a good question.
Unique.
15 words or less, Casey.
I don't.
Chop, chop, chop.
I don't know if I can do that, but
iPhones, Apple, Microsoft.
So I kind of find like technology and fantasy interesting, and not just having it be, a fully fantasy setting. And one of the reasons because of that is a friend of mine from college, Zach. He was running a like 2-person text-based like play-by-post game with me and one other person, where it was like an old world, but it was like more post-apocalyptic, our world kind of thing with crumbled buildings and everything. And the imagery kind of stuck with me, which is why that is kind of, I think like that interested me enough to like make my own thing with it.
Yeah.
You know what I appreciate as well is there was like digital technology, and then there was also like steampunkish technology that like people, it wasn't technology from the before era. It was technology that was like newly being invented.
Yes.
Quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I love the distinction there. That felt really cool as well. There was kind of like the recycled technology and the new stuff that was.
It's like Magitech versus industrial. Yeah.
Dude, maybe one of us know this. Does anybody know what Artemis's star sign is?
I think she put it in the group chat, but Facebook is crashing for me right now.
No, all right. Well, we'll see if we can find that.
I'll check if I got it.
Ask the other ones. I'll look for it.
I think they're a Taurus. Andrew, you sing a lot. What's Leo's favorite song?
Oh, that's hard. I think if he had access to all the music that we have access to, I think the song that most represents him would be "Waiting Room" by Fugazi, which is basically the whole thing of this.
We'll have to listen later.
It's a great song. Great song. Just listen to Fugazi.
All right, everybody, go listen to what was it again? One more time.
Fugazi.
I will be "A Waiting Room" by Fugazi.
Waiting Room Fugazi.
Rachel decided that Artemis is a Pisces. Pisces.
A Pisces.
She's a fish, okay?
I spot a Pisces.
I wonder where that fishy went.
So I actually went and looked at everyone's sign and made sure that I had them all, because I think that this needs to be listed, if not for just general reference, in case someone wants to write a fan fiction in the future and needs to have this information. Don't worry, I've collected it all in one space just for you. So Artemis is a Pisces. Snøfrid and Leo are both Sagittarius. Barnabas is a Virgo. Hesk is Aries. And Renald is a Taurus. So actually, and fun fact, one of our characters' signs is not, well, there's one recap I did where it's different. And I'll be honest, I don't remember which one it is, but I know that there's one at one point where I was recording the recap for the beginning of season 3, and I went, they did say that it was different. Because I did ask everyone's character in the beginning what their sign was, and well, this is canon now, so I'm sorry. Also, I don't know Arvoidus' sign, but that's because Arvoidus was not born and will not die and lives forever.
Sky, how did it feel to lose Hesk, and what was the process of having to create a whole new character mid-campaign?
So
15 words or less.
Hesk went out cool. Was fun to make new character. Silly Billy Willie Chef Boy.
All right.
Good answer.
It was, I mean, honestly, Hesk went out in such a badass and cool way.
Yeah,
so really, I was like, yes, I got a cool character death. But at the same time, Hesk is so much fun to play because of all those like Uncle Iroh moments, the absolute badass moments. Like it's so aggrandizing to play. It's just like cathartic. It's absolutely cathartic
power
to play
fantasy.
Hesk. It's super power fantasy
I get
to play
that.
Hesk. But and creating a new character campaign was super fun. Just kind of thinking like, how do I do this differently? What's going to fit in well? What's going to be nice for the party dynamic? And making a character that was a bit more of like a side character rather than like a main character that Hesk had turned into. Yeah. And then finally, one more here. Did anyone predict that Lucy was the BBEG? I think we went over this at one point. Casey, you got the answer.
Yeah, Casey gave us points for it.
Yeah.
Sky got an inspiration for, I don't know if it was necessarily you calling it or you making a joke, but you did do it at a certain point.
It was
and
half
I made
and
a note of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you did. And like for me, at least listening to you guys playing, when you were getting to Hesk, like connecting all of those dots that were kind of there, that was very much a nice moment for me, being like, yes, finally they're seeing the things that I put in and they're making those connections. And that was always great.
Love that feeling.
Yeah.
I definitely thought it was a joke for a long time. I didn't really expect it to be true, but I did. My first guess at it was when we got Eloise Nightingale's notes, and it was like 2L. And I was like, well, who else could that be?
Mm-hmm.
That was the click moment for me. But I didn't buy into it at that point. I only bought into it when we at around that Themis point when we really thought about it. I was just like, who else could that be? But there's no way it's the franchise owner. That's silly.
Did anyone predict that Lucy was the big bad evil guy? No, it definitely was not me. I was, I mean, it was funny because in the beginning, like the Loose and Buckle being a chain restaurant was actually my doing. That's my fault. And the reason being was because I listened to NADPod and they reference chain restaurants in their podcast. So the first restaurant that was mentioned, the Loose and Buckle, I was the guy that said, yeah, it's like a Friendly's or an Applebee's or something. And it became a chain from that moment on, which makes it even funnier that I was just genuinely not aware until I think I was maybe one of the last people to be like, oh, right. So yeah, no, it definitely was not me until we all kind of collectively realized it together.
But there were those hints of like, we didn't know what they looked like, and they had been around for a long time, and they had knowledge of the
and that kind of leads into a Jen question, which is basically, were there any plot threads that the players didn't pick up on or went in a different direction? And I don't know if there were specifically any like Lucy plot threads that you guys didn't see or anything like that. At least not initially. They might have been in there more as a joke. I don't think there was anything in particular that you didn't latch on to. But I mean, you guys constantly zig when I want you to zag. So like, I can't pick one moment.
They keep you on your toes, baby.
Of course. While we're in rapid fire mode, this one also is from Jen to Sky.
Oh,
what's Renald's favorite Food Network show?
Oh man, I think he would really like the Great British Bake Off because it wouldn't be like, it was nice,
Yeah.
I don't know, that or Nightmare Kitchen. Where Gordon Ramsay just yells at shitty people.
Right.
Because that would also be cathartic to see shitty business owners like his mother getting their comeuppance.
Yep.
Mixed in with the occasional wholesome moment,
Yeah.
All right. I got one last question for you, Casey, before we jump to Frankie's.
Okay.
What the fuck was up with the tally man?
What was that
whole... Oh my God, the tally man.
Like, we never saw him again.
We put him in the dirt. We literally just shoved him into the ground.
What came over you?
Themis told us that he was just like insurance that Lucy put on in case any of the secret stuff got stolen. Was that literally the extent of it? Was there anything more to that?
Yeah, honestly, that was a fully improv moment with the tally man and Joan. Literally fully improv. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it.
In terms
never
of
saw him again.
In terms of his stat block and stuff like that, we had like an episode in between when you guys started singing and when he actually showed up, I think.
Yeah.
So that it like gave me at least a week to prep. But yeah, fully improv.
So when he got hit by lightning, what like was that supposed to be Lucy taking him away? Was that just his like contingency?
Or was that just pure chance?
I mean, Initially, I think the thought was for him to have come back to them, I think he probably was like, "I'm out" afterwards. Like,
sure, that makes sense.
Like he goes back to Themis, and Themis is like in her haggard state at this point, trying to get all of this stuff figured out, knowing you guys have stopped her at every point, and he's like, "I'm gonna cut my losses here," and just disappeared, and that's why they lost connection with him, I think.
Is the Tallyman just the bookkeeper for the company?
I mean, not even. He was just
He's like, I don't get paid enough for this shit.
He was like the alarm system guy.
Yeah. He's a Pinkerton.
He's a Pinkerton.
Oh, God.
He's trying to get those magic cards.
So you're telling me you were just riding up stuff and your eyes glazed over and suddenly you just wrote out the entire Banana Boat song?
No, that's what Google's for.
Okay.
It's automatic writing. Yeah, he was possessed by a ghost.
Goes to the Tallyman.
We have 2 questions from Frankie I think would make for a good closer here.
Yeah.
The first one, a little more specific. Are there any plans to revisit the setting and characters created for Scum and Villainy?
Oh, bring back Jane.
I can just I can answer that very quickly. There's no plans, but it is on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we all had a really good time with those characters.
We all
That
had
was
a
a fun
great
time.
time with those characters. That was fun. Pappy, Jack,
I kind of,
the
obviously it
robot.
was just like one quick sort of adventure in this world. I did create basically an entire sci-fi chunk of space based on the core book, but like with my own spin on it. I would love to revisit it. There were a lot of cool stuff in there we didn't get to touch on.
How did it end again? I can't.
You guys got the artifact of the sun. It hatched into a star dragon, and you blew up the Fury's ship. And I think one of them got away, but the ship was exploding at the time.
Right.
Because Pappy blew it up, which was really funny. Which was blew up to have the ship. I remember this look of disappointment on Casey's face, and I was like, and then you realize you have just sent half a starship's worth of exploding warp core directly at someone very far away.
Yep.
So no plans. We talk a lot about, we have a lot of discussion about games that we want to try. There's a lot of new games we want to try and get to, but if we ever do, if we want to go back to Blades in the Dark or anything, I would love to do more Scum and Villainy. I really like that system, and I really like that setting.
Yeah.
And the second question here, what is each of your favorite systems you've played on the podcast so far?
Ooh.
That's a hard one.
I mean, Sky, we were talking about this literally the other day. Clean Streets is one of our favorites.
Honest to God?
Say,
I was thinking Clean Streets.
Casey and I both were talking about, we think that might be the funniest thing that we've recorded so far.
You know what? I was thinking the exact same thing. If that was a question, Clean Streets has been my favorite.
I'd love to return back to the Spaghetti Zone. Not
Spaghetti
exactly,
Zone.
Not just the same concept, not exactly the same characters,
It's
but just
exploring
like
different things.
of
and-
like 3 different things
Yeah.
and then the same characters and in them, but new characters this time around. Though I would play my creepy boy again if I could.
I'd also say I really liked Delta Green as well.
That was really cool.
Man, yeah.
In both the mechanics and how you were running it, Sky, like we had some legit creepy moments.
Yeah,
that
I do want to revisit Delta Green.
I think that would be a good system to go back to at some
I think
point.
my favorite scary moment from that one was Jonas, you reaching for your walkie-talkie and the guy behind you, and then ending that for an entire week.
Oh my God.
That was pretty fun. There was a lot. I love doing creepy and horror stuff. So if people want to hear more horror stuff, just let us know, and I will run another campaign, or one of us will do another horror setting. I'm sure we will in the future. Maybe the Alien RPG.
That's very kind of you guys to say that about Clean Streets. I think it's in terms of systems. I mean, D&D we obviously played the most of on the show, and I played it for 5 years. I have grown a little bit tired of it at this point, just because I've played like thousands of hours of 5th edition at this point.
Right there with you, buddy. Yeah.
I get that.
It's been a good run. I'm excited to try, like I said, I'm running Pathfinder. I'm having a great time with that. I think Scum and Villainy is probably my favorite of the systems we've tried. I love the flashbacks. I love the resistance. I love the resiliency of the system.
Yeah.
And I also kind of related, I love Monster of the Week and just apocalypse games in general.
Oh, yeah.
Those are probably my favorite. I would love to try Masks on the podcast. That might be my favorite system of all time.
It's in the running to come up at some point.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a couple times.
We will try Masks as long as we go long enough, we will get to Masks.
We did a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse stuff.
Yeah.
We've done
Which
Masks,
that's good, but I feel like we should definitely
we haven't done Masks. But yeah, we've done a lot of that, and I think we've done a total of like 4 technically different systems.
Yeah, we did 5e, we did Scum and Villainy, which is Forged in the Dark. We did Monster of the Week and a couple Pirate Black Apocalypse, and we did
Kids on
Delta
Brooms.
Green. Oh, and then we did
Clean
Clean Streets and Kids on Brooms. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
Also, in my opinion, that second holiday special. The
That
first
was
one was
really
fantastic.
I go back and listen to that ending
Oh
all
my
the time.
God.
Again, some of the funniest stuff we've ever done.
With Casey, like the like guy in the shutter shades comes up, and Casey being like, "Love you, Daddy. Thank you so much." And then just the whole ending of Rachel killing Sky.
Where does the RPG go? Towards you, and when what happens? It hits you.
Past the moose.
Past the moose.
Into Maggie. I'm dead. I go back and listen to that all the time.
So funny.
Good.
Yeah.
What about you, Andrew?
A favorite system? I think Clean Streets, honestly.
It's so kind of you to say. Really, that really means a lot. Thank you.
Because it was so easy to click into everything.
Yeah,
like everything
for
was
sure.
very easily laid out.
It was also just a system where, like, we were absolutely unhinged as
Oh,
players.
yes. Something came out of us that day
I mean,
that
Yeah.
it's
We get
it's
glimpses
about
of it,
cleaning. It's an
but I don't
RPG
think we
about
fully
cleaning up
captured it.
messes. You're gonna. I mean, no offense, you're not gonna take it exactly seriously. So, like, you can just kind of
yeah, not supposed to.
do whatever you want, and it's great. It's just fun.
The GM is called the Big Daddy.
Yeah, it was great. Playing
I
Ave
mean,
Maria
I love
as we
it.
drove through the streets, arguing over who's gonna drive, or having a fake steering wheel for Seth's character. That was so
I will
funny.
say my possibly my favorite moment in all of RP Jesters so far was when there was a very clear setup payoff with Andrew mentioning that he had a stepson. And then in the first episode, and then in the second episode, I pitch you up against your doppelgangers, and Andrew, without any hesitation, is like, "Listen, man, I know that I'm with Eliza now."
God,
whatever
that
they
was-
but
yeah.
like the instant like second beat that's probably my favorite joke we've ever done.
I don't know how much laughter you cut from that scene because I haven't listened to it well. I legitimately think we laughed for 10 minutes straight when that happened.
It was so good.
I almost
hurt.
fell out of my chair. I think I did fall out of my chair. I was laughing.
I think
so
you
hard at
might
that
have.
part.
At one,
That
or,
whole
like, slid a
final
little
section
bit.
was so funny.
Oh, it was there's a magic in those two episodes, in my opinion, that we get glimpses of in every other series. But I feel like it was just constant in those.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
Like it was just banger after banger after banger.
Yeah.
So for me, my favorite system definitely has to be Scum and Villainy that we've played so far. I loved that one. I just thought it was so fun. I loved playing Talu. She was a definite departure from Artemis, and she was cool to play. I loved the story she ended up going on. I loved communicating with that little, baby star. I thought that was so fun. And I liked kind of watching her stray from being so uptight to dealing with that situation we were dealing with. I thought that was really, really fun to play. But overall, the system itself, I just really like the way that it plays. I like the vices aspect. I like the going back and being prepared for thing. I love that whole thing. I like that it's about the story. I like that it's about being the hero and progressing as the hero and ending in a success. Like, it's going to work out, but that doesn't mean that stuff isn't going to happen and you don't have to deal with it. Like, I love it. That system's great.
All right, we did it, guys.
we did it. We did it.
We even ended.
I got one more question.
Sure.
What's next for RP Jesters?
Rebranding.
Yeah, it's over.
We're
We give up, everybody. Good night.
We give up.
We're actually becoming an ASMR channel.
Oh.
I know you like my
RP
mouth
Jesters,
noises now.
ASMR.
Wait till.
Yo, is there an ASMR D&D podcast out there?
Oh, there
Probably.
has to be.
Sure.
100%.
There must be.
But to answer the question a little bit more legitly, so next week we are going to have the start of a mini arc for a Barnabas send-off. We got Seth
He's
back.
coming home, baby.
So if any of you had questions about what actually happened to Barnabas, that's going to actually be answered within the next 8 weeks or so as we tell that story, which I am very excited about. We're all going to be playing different magic users, and Rachel is going to be running that for us. After that, And
finally,
Andrew is going to be running something for us. Andrew's going to be running Hell Knight.
Oh boy.
Which is, we'll all be playing Demons from Hell. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then...
I mean, you'll be playing a demon from hell.
Sure. You're a fallen angel. It's fine. And then finally, the next thing that we have planned after that, because those two are going to be mini arcs between like 6 to 10 episodes. After that, it is going to be Jonas running our next long game, which will be Vampire the Masquerade, which all of us are super excited for. We've had our characters planned for a long time now.
So desperate.
Yeah, that we have a bunch of other RPGs that we're looking at playing in the future, partially for like season breaks and things like that, but that's what we have coming up at the moment. So for the next like 16 weeks or so, we're going to be doing a couple of mini games, and then we're going to jump into Vampire the Masquerade.
Vampire.
Blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining us in the Jesters Chambers.
Thank you all so much for sending in your questions and a lot of praise. Very appreciated. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to plug?
I want to plug RP Jesters, the podcast you're listening to right now.
Hey.
Keep listening, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
And tell your friends.
And you know what I want to plug? RP Jesters, and leaving a review for this podcast. Yeah, go leave us a review. That would be great. And that's my plug this week.
No, I think I'm going to make a plug this week. I'm going to plug my podcast, RP Jesters.
Whoa, I never heard of it. What do they do?
You like to laugh? We do some of that. You should listen.
We're not very funny.
Speak for yourself.
But we could be.
We got some moments. We got some good moments.
Only way you're going to find out is if you listen.
You know what I'd like to plug?
Me.
The letter G. Today's letter G word is...
Goodbye!
That's good, Chase.
Oh, that went great.
Oh, what a feeling.
Oh, shit, I didn't hit record.
Well, I guess we just won't have Sky's responses. It's fine.
Tieflings are devils or